I didn't realize this. Angelo and the Poffos sued the NWA for having a monopoly on the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is because he had International Championship Wrestling, an outlaw promotion. And when did that form? About 78. And that was a
70, late 78.
Yeah, late 78. Lanny Poffo
because
joins.
Because we were both working in Tennessee, and I left to go to Puerto Rico at the maybe October 78. And I went to Puerto Rico. And no, I left at the end of the year to go to Puerto Rico. And Lanny left about October to go up north. Why they wanted to go up in the winter, I don't know. But they went up there, and they were in Newfoundland or the
Grand Prix, the Dupree.
Yeah, it was up north, and they bought into that. And I'm sorry, they started just another one, Lexington, Kentucky.
Yes,
that's where they started it.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting confused. Lanny Poffo didn't actually make it in the first few months. He was in Portland and Grand Prix. I believe he turned up in ICW in 1989 in the summer. In the formation
1980.
Sorry, 1979. Apologies. So Angelo steals some talent from Indianapolis, Dick the Bruiser, and also the Jarretts. What talent did they steal? Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't know what they stole, really. I don't. I don't remember that. I remember he was there. And Randy called me, wanted me to come. And,
why didn't you?
Well, it was a new company. I didn't want to take a chance with a new company. And it was back in those days, you had to be kind of leery if you worked for somebody like that, because then you could get blackballed yourself. They wouldn't use you because they couldn't trust you, they said. And so, and he never would discuss money. I mean, I can't go up there on a maybe. So I didn't go. But I don't know what other talent they really stole that mattered that much.
Yeah, I know like they had Bob Roop there. I think Rip Rogers wrestled there at one point. I'll give you this then. So Randy Savage especially would be challenging the Memphis guys to a fight, Lawler and Dundee and everything.
Now I'm confused. Bob Roop and who else did you say?
Rip Rogers, was he not in ICW at one point?
Yeah, he was there. He was Randy's friend.
Yeah. Paul Christie, I think, was in ICW.
Yeah, they were, and Rip was he was in Memphis, but later than that. I mean, and Randy actually came back and worked Memphis later.
I'd have to look on that one. I may be talking out of school there with Rip Rogers. Let's talk about the genuine animosity between the Poffos and the Jarretts. When did that kick off, and how did that sort of come to the fore as far as, like, were they trying to mess each other around on dates or threaten to fight each other? Because I believe at one point wrestlers started carrying guns.
That was them, though. Did I carry a gun? Nah. If they'd run up on me, I said, guys, what are you doing? Why would you fight somebody when you had nothing to do with it? I mean, and Randy, I don't think would have fought me anyway, because he knew me from Atlanta, and we kind of broke in together. I mean, there was a kind of mutual respect there. It was the guys that Randy didn't know that he disliked. One of the guys he disliked was Bill Dundee. And they had a fight in Nashville. And what Randy was doing in Nashville from Lexington, Kentucky, I have no idea. It's like 230 miles away. But I guess they were at the gym working out. And I think word had gotten back that Bill had said something about them. And so they confronted Bill in the parking lot. And I think they punched him or did a couple of things. And Bill had the gun, and he pulled a gun out, and they took off. That's what I heard. But I don't know where the animosity between the Poffos and the Jarretts started. It was more they didn't like Lawler and they didn't like Dundee. more than Jerry Jarrett.
What was it with Lawler then?
Say what now?
Why did the Poffos not like Lawler? Was it just
Well,
because he was the big star and they wanted to make a splash in the
Well,
scene?
they challenged him on their TV and Dundee on their TV, and they kept making an angle that it wasn't answered. Of course, it's not going to be answered because no deal had been cut or anything. And but I'm thinking, why would you challenge somebody that you know there's probably no chance of them showing up? You're just talking about somebody that's never going to be there. Now, maybe if they'd shown up, you'd have drawn a house, but they never did show up. Maybe later on, but they needed them like in the early days of their new territory they had started. They needed them then. So it was, and I would have thought Angelo would have known that, but apparently he didn't.
With ICW, was the problem that it just never drew that well because just never had the talent? Is it as simple as that?
ICW?
Yeah.
You're talking about
the Poffo.
They didn't have the towns. Listen, Memphis, the Memphis territory, they had Memphis. Of course, it's not such a big town then, but it is now. Memphis and Nashville, Louisville, Evansville were fairly sized towns. The only town that the Poppos had, the biggest town, was Lexington, which wasn't as big as Evansville. That was their main town. Then they would run those little out of the way Kentucky, back in the hills, holler towns that maybe have a 2,000 population. And of course, you can't draw unless there's people to draw from. Not everybody's a wrestling fan. So they didn't really have, and that was one of the drawbacks of Smoky Mountain Wrestling too, is because they didn't have the towns. They didn't have the population to draw from. That was, I think the product was pretty decent for the time, but they didn't have the population to draw from.
I remember the footage, like the footage that you see now. I don't know if it's just because it's bad VHS or something, and the quality of the cameras was so bad, even compared to Memphis at the time. So, I mean, just from a visual production standpoint, the product quality was not there as compared to Memphis.
Well, they did it. They probably did it in Lexington. And of course, Lexington is not going to have the TV quality that an Atlanta would have, or a Memphis would have, or even a Nashville would have. They had the nice cameras. This station was a out of the way station, and the budget wasn't that strong, so they had 2 cameras, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was very basic.
Well, that's what they had.
Do you remember? In fact, do you remember the entire process of the Poffos, Randy, Angelo, Lanny coming over to Jarrett and Lawler and everyone saying, "Listen, actually, can we? I know we've said these horrible things about you for 5 years, but can we work together?"
No, I think Jerry Jarrett watched their show, and he was a fan of Randy's. And he said, well, this guy can draw us some money here. So he, as a good businessman would do, he pitched an idea to them between Lanny's self-parading himself. He pitched an idea, hey, let's work together. And they drew a couple of big houses in Lexington. Lexington was a tremendous wrestling town because, excuse me, we wrestled in Lexington at the Rupp Arena. Rupp Arena is a big basketball arena, and the University of Kentucky has a massive arena. You can see it 20, it's as big as Madison Square Garden. But they built it there in an out-of-the-way college town because it was such a big sport. Back in the days, they were like perennial national champions every year when they had a coach named Rupp. His name was Adolph Rupp, which is what the arena was named after. So, but when we ran it, we'd probably draw 10,000 people because they had a big curtain in the middle where they could curtain it off. And we just used half the arena, but it was full. People were right on top of you. And they were a loud crowd. And I think that was the main reason that Lanny came over. I think they worked some kind of a deal on splitting the house or whatever they did. But that's how they got Randy to Memphis. And he drew against Lawler. And of course, all the fight between Dundee and Dundee was there. I mean, it's like one of those things that happened, but let's let it go. And for the sake of business, they let it go.